Hello, this is cjhoyle, and welcome to day 5 of my solo canoeing adventure on the Trent-Severn Waterway. I'm starting the day here in the community of Bobcaygeon. Last night I camped back behind there in that forest. You can just barely see my tent, and you may be able to hear that currently it's raining right now. The time is about 6:15 a.m. So I'm hoping to get everything packed up as quickly as I can and get on the water and get going. But the rain hopefully will not slow me down too much. It's never too much fun putting away a tent in the rain, but this morning I think it's got to be done. The rain doesn't seem to be, according to the radar, the rain isn't expected to pass for a while now, so I'll have to deal with it. Wow, that rain is really picking up. So my next task is to get all the dry stuff that I have inside the tent, and I think I'll put it over here underneath the canoe where it'll be somewhat sheltered. Alright, so the tent is all packed up now. That means that I'm ready to start loading this stuff. We'll bring the canoe down to the water and start loading it in. Alright, so I've got the canoe fully loaded, and it seems like the rain has mostly stopped for now, although I'm not expecting it to be dry for the rest of the day. But anyways, it's time now to say goodbye to Bobcaygeon and get in the water and begin my journey heading down Pigeon Lake towards Buckhorn Lake. Alright, so the time is now 7:05, and so begins another long day of paddling. The fuel sign at this marina here looks a lot like an Esso sign. So I just went underneath a bridge, and I can already see that the river is opening up into a lake. I'm not sure these people really need their lawn sprinklers on today. Alright, so the river is now opened up into Pigeon Lake, and that land that's straight ahead, that's an island called Big Island. It's always nice getting to hear the sound of loons calling each other like that. So looking back that way, I can see the Bobcaygeon water tower. And when I started my paddle this morning, I was following along that western shore. And I've now crossed over here to the eastern shore, or actually to the shore of Big Island. And as you can see, it's a pretty windy day today. Pigeon Lake is a really long, narrow, skinny lake, which kind of orients itself mostly in the north-south direction. So it seems like the wind is, coming from the south. Thankfully, I only need to go down Pigeon Lake about a third of the way down before I turn to the left, and I'm going to be heading up Buckhorn Lake. My original plan for today was to follow that western shoreline until I got to that turnoff, because according to the weather forecast, it looked like the wind was going to be such that that shoreline over there would be the more sheltered one. But when I started, I could tell that shoreline was not at all sheltered, and it looked like the waves were coming over from this side of the lake. So I decided to cross over here, figuring that would, be more sheltered. And also I have to cross, this side anyways eventually. But as soon as I was about halfway across, or a little bit more than halfway across, I could see that, the waves really are just oriented sort of perpendicular to the shorelines. And I think both shorelines are going to be equally windy. If anything, I think the western one actually probably would have been better. So anyways, but I think that, can't really see because I'm just taking a break here, hidden behind these lily pads. But once I get around these, I'll be, heading dead into the wind. On a positive note, though, the rain has seemed to completely stop for now. So at least I won't have rain coming down on me as I'm heading into the wind. So here's what the waves look like that I've been fighting. And a technique that I've discovered is that if I keep my nose so that it's pointing directly into the wind, then the wind doesn't do as much for me. If my nose gets skewed a little bit to one side like it is about to now, hang on. So what I was trying to say there is that I've found that when heading into a strong wind like I'm doing right now, I found that it works best if I keep the nose or the bow of the boat pointing directly into the wind, or essentially directly perpendicular to the waves, and that way the wind is able, or the waves are able to sort of split on the nose there, and I'm still able to continue going straight. However, if I end up getting my bow so it's a little bit skewed, like maybe 30 degrees off of perpendicular, then the waves tend to catch the bow and push it to one side. And the further that it goes to that one side, the harder it is to recover. So that's why you don't really see me filming very much when I'm riding into a headwind, because when I'm not, when I'm filming, I'm usually not paddling, and that means that it allows the wind to take control of the front of the boat, and the next thing you know, I'm fighting to get it back again. So it's been hard going, but I've almost made it to the far southern tip of Big Island, and just taking a little bit of a rest here in this marsh, but then I'll continue my way over. I think I'm going to cut far over to the left so I can enjoy the shelter of that land over there from the wind as I'm rounding the corner. So there's Big Island back there, and I've crossed over to the mainland here, and I'm shooting for that point up there where I should have a little break from the wind. Not very long though. So I've reached the shelter from the point, which is much appreciated, although it looks like the wind direction has changed a little bit, and unfortunately I think if I had gone with the eastern shore, it would have been calmer, at least at this point now. The time is now almost 9:30, and I've only traveled a little bit more than 7 kilometers, so definitely moving slower today than I was yesterday on account of the wind. So while I'm in this sheltered spot, I decided to tie the canoe up so that I can have my much anticipated overnight oats breakfast that I've been looking forward to all morning, and of course some orange juice to go with it. Alright, so feeling refueled and energized, I'm back on the water and continuing my way down that shoreline towards that point, which once I get around it, I'm sure it'll be quite exhausting paddling into the wind again. I'm almost at that point I was talking about, which on the map is labeled as Sand Point, and you can really see how on the left side it's very common still and flat, and then over towards the right there's a line, and you can see where the big waves are coming from further down south in the lake. So I've made it a bit further up the shoreline. You can see there's a houseboat out there who's making presumably the same journey as me today, and you can see also, in the foreground there's not a whole lot of wind here. That's because I've found some shade from Jacob Island, which is in the narrows between Pigeon Lake and Buckhorn Lake, where I'm heading. But out there's no shelter at all. The wind is quite strong. You can even see some white caps on those waves, and it's really been hard going coming up this east side of the lake. Pretty much been heading into the wind pretty much the whole way along. And with the big waves, it's just an awful lot of up and down, and I'm really glad that I'm not susceptible to seasickness, because I think on a day like today I probably would have lost my breakfast by now if I had, but certainly glad to take a nice break here. I think I'm pretty close to where things should get easier. So that's Jacob's Island back there, and I was just sort of resting on the other side of that point there, and after I came around the point, of course I'm now heading in a different direction, and the wind is almost oriented, very close to what I want. It's about a 45 degree, from my tail, so it's really helping me. I can feel a few raindrops, but it hasn't really been raining very much either. So, although there did see on my phone when I stopped that there's a thunderstorm warning in effect, so hopefully that doesn't slow me down too much. So straight ahead, there's the bridge which divides Pigeon Lake from Buckhorn Lake, and I have a houseboat coming along beside me as we make our way through the bridge. Well, that's a clearance under this bridge for that houseboat, but I don't think a sailboat would be able to go through here. So I had some hard paddling to get around that peninsula back there, but right now I've got the wind right behind me pushing me where I need to go. So I'm a bit further down the lake now, and that island over on my right is called Nickel Island, and as far as I can tell, it's completely uninhabited. There aren't any cottages or anything. And when I was planning my trip originally, before I started it, I was always knowing that today's distance was quite far, and I was always thinking that if I couldn't quite make it, maybe I'd be able to camp on that island. But I don't think I'll have to do that now, because it's only just after 12:30 and I've traveled 17.3 kilometers, which means I'm more than halfway done, and with the wind behind me, I'm sure I'll be able to make it to my destination. I'm now going past another island which is called McKinley Island, and out there I can see a very small island which doesn't have any leaves on the trees, and I think that's an island that's been taken over by cormorants, a type of bird which destroy trees. So I'm pointing over towards the community of Buckhorn now, and I can see how the lake is narrowing in that direction. When I started today, I really thought the wind wasn't going to be on my side, but man, it sure is nice having a big, massive tailwind behind me. So the time is about 1:20, and I've traveled just over 20 kilometers so far, so that means I have about another 8 or so left to go. I snacked on a granola bar earlier, but I'm starting to feel a bit hungry for lunch, but I kind of don't really want to stop because having this tailwind behind me is just such a luxury. I'd hate to, to stop and brake and miss any part of it because there's a chance that it might change directions or it might change intensity too. Just beyond the buoy there are some cormorants over there, the birds that inhabit that island that has no foliage on the trees. This island here is called Greenwood Island, and there's a pretty narrow section to get past that takes you into Buckhorn. So that concrete structure down near the water is the bridge, the road bridge for crossing between the two peninsulas, and that should be really close to where the lock is, so I'm getting really close. I've traveled 25.3 kilometers so far. This marina over here has a fuel dock, but they don't want me to wake them up. Well, I really don't like the look of those black clouds over there, but I'm really close to my destination. One of the reasons why I didn't stop for lunch is because the forecast was calling for a chance of thunder showers, and I really wanted to get ahead of that, but it looks like hopefully I can arrive before they start. So that road bridge that I was seeing earlier, that's over there, and that goes across where the dam is, and I believe the lock is over here. I've already been feeling a few raindrops, so I'm really feeling like it's going to start raining really soon, so I got to be quick to get my tent up to hopefully get my stuff, keep my stuff dry. So there's the lock. Now I just need to park the boat and see where I can camp. Well, this is kind of what I was trying to avoid. If I had arrived about 20 minutes earlier, that would have been better, but at least this didn't happen to me when I was out in the middle of the lake. Well, we took on some water from all that rain, but it seems to be slowing down a bit at least, and they're opening the lock gates now. Well, that rain was very short-lived. I just wish I had arrived, as I said, about 20 minutes earlier. Then I could have had the tent up, all the stuff inside, and I could have stayed dry, but most of my stuff is sealed away anyways. It looks like they have lots of good camping here. The lockmaster was telling me if I come around this corner I should be able to get the canoe up pretty easily, and you can see there's lots of nice green grass there for camping on. So I was able to get all my stuff up over to there, and I have this big grassy area, there or up here or anywhere I want to camp, and really positive experience with the staff here so far. So the storm is past now and headed over in that direction, but where I am, it's a nice blue sunny day again. I was noticing this unusual tree over here, which has leaves which are distinctly maple leaves, but look at the trunk of it. It looks like there's about 25 different trunks. So I've got my tent set up now, and I've also got the canoe pulled up on land and locked to that tree there. And I've got a couple things over there that are drying. Hopefully the wind will help it dry a little bit. I don't want to put too many wet things inside the tent, otherwise they won't dry. It's still kind of spitting a little bit, or it has been. Right now it doesn't feel like it is, but it has been raining a little bit, so that sunshine that I had was kind of short-lived. So with everything at my campsite settled, I'm going to go and walk up and explore a bit around Buckhorn, first to get some groceries, and second to find something for dinner. When I started my trip, I was seeing a lot of sedimentary rock, but now I'm seeing a lot of solid igneous rock, which tells me that I'm now in the Canadian Shields. I've also now left the city of Kawartha Lakes because Buckhorn is part of the municipality of Trent Lakes, which is within Peterborough County. So the grocery store is over on the south side of the lock, so I came up on top of the bridge to get there. Looking over this way, there's the dam that separates Buckhorn from Lower Buckhorn, and in the distance that's the lake that I paddled down to get here. It looks like the wind has calmed down a fair bit since I arrived. So here I've arrived at the Buckhorn Foodland. On my way back to the campsite I decided to walk past the dam, and you can see there's quite a bit of flow coming in from Buckhorn flowing into Lower Buckhorn. That bridge over there is the one that I took when I was on my way to the grocery store. The gates in this dam are pretty interesting. They're sort of a cylindrical shape, and they pivot about a point over there, and by going up and down they can allow different amounts of water to flow through. This one here in the middle is open. So I just dropped off a few things at the campsite, and now I'm going to make my way and find something for dinner. So the restaurants in Buckhorn are down a different road. So at the top of the canal, if you go a little bit upstream, here you can see many of the different restaurants that are available. So I've decided that I'll try the local Buckhorn pizza spot tonight. So I found a nice spot with a picnic table down near the water here, and I got some lemonade from the local convenience store, and the pizza that I ordered is garlic sauce based. I think they call it Polo Aglio. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So after that very enjoyable meal, I'm now back here at the campsite and just need to get a few things settled to get ready for bed. One of those things is to prepare my overnight oats breakfast for tomorrow. So that pretty much wraps it up in terms of day 5. It was a very difficult day of paddling, or at least the first half of it was, or the morning part of it was. Paddling into that headwind, like it was really strong. I think the wind was stronger today than it was on day 3 when I was paddling into the headwind. And man, I was just really exhausted, and I was so glad that when I made the turn to Buckhorn that the wind was behind me and I just got to coast the rest of the way, because I don't think if my destination had been at the bottom of Pigeon Lake instead of at the top of Buckhorn Lake, I don't know whether I would have been able to make it if it was the same kind of distance. As it turned out, my distance was only 27.3 today. I was expecting it would be closer to 29, but I think part of the reason why I got my distance estimates from this website that just tells you the distances between the different lock stations, and I'm guessing they probably follow like the recommended shipping route, which I didn't follow. I followed a more direct route instead, and also to take advantage of the wind. So, and looking at the map and what I did, I basically took pretty much the shortest possible trip that you could have taken. So that I guess would explain why it ended up being a little bit less distance. Yeah, anyways, it was a really enjoyable day, and looking forward to tomorrow, which will be a little bit of a shorter day, kind of my rest day before I have another long one. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed joining me for day number 5. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.